My name is Adam Oliver. I'd like to share with you a real-life, close-to-home example of how safety glasses can save lives. It was about 10 minutes till lunchtime on the afternoon of August 28th, 2007. I had decided to have the quarry guys move some APR bastrop underneath the shed because our raw materials near the shed were soaking wet and were hard to use without the possibility of the crusher clogging up. During this time, the crusher was running, but there was not any stone running to it. So Roy took advantage of this time to look into the crusher to see if there was any clay buildup on the apron. Don Ray was with him. I was driving through the quarry and I heard Roy sarcastically say, "Thank you, Adam." So I instantly knew that there was a buildup on the apron. I decided to drive over to the crusher so I could determine what material was the main contributor to causing the buildup. And then I could take this material out of the mix so we wouldn't have any more problems. As I pulled up, Don Ray was driving away from the crusher. And from the cab of the truck, I could see Roy was up by the crusher door all by himself. Back then, face shields were not required, and they weren't stored near the crusher. I thought to myself I should go back to the office and grab mine, but I knew Roy was up there all by himself, and if something were to happen to him, no one would be there to help him. So I went up to the crusher platform, about 10 feet from the crusher door, and could instantly see that there was a 1 to 2 foot buildup of clay on the apron, mostly consisting of APR St. Louis. Roy grabbed the air lance, and I grabbed the flashlight, and we began air lancing. I wasn't as scared as I normally am about working near the crusher with the door open, because it was mostly clay buildup. I thought the worst that could happen was I could get sprayed with little bits of clay. Also, I would have quickly given up my job to Don Ray as soon as he returned. When I finally came to after about 5 seconds, I felt the blood pouring into my hand. I had been hit by the rock, shot out of the crusher, moving about 90 miles an hour. I opened my eyes and I have never seen so much blood, but I could only see it out of one eye.
Roy, you need the ambulance.
Council, call an ambulance. Adam's been hurt. Adam's been hit in the eye. Get the first aid kit.
I was not even in the office for 2 seconds, and Kenny and Doug were performing first aid on me.
Hang on, Adam. The ambulance is on the way. Hang on.
Okay, can you just give me a wet towel?
Yeah,
okay.
A lot of blood.
You alright?
Ken brought me some wet paper towels to put on my eye. My eye was hurting a lot, and the cool towels felt good. Not even a minute later, the ambulance arrived, and we were off to the emergency room. On the way to the ER, all I could think about is not falling asleep. I knew I had a head trauma, and if I fell asleep, I might not ever wake up again. Once I reached the ER, I wasn't worried about falling asleep anymore, but more worried about whether or not I was ever going to see out of this eye again. The doctor pulled my swollen eye open, and everything was black. I tried my hardest not to be afraid and laugh it off with a few jokes about how this is going to mess up my modeling career. But deep down, all I kept thinking is, am I going to be able to watch my daughters grow up with 2 normal eyes? Will I be able to do the fatherly things I like to do with only one eye? Will my wife of 7 days think any less of me with only one eye? Millions of things were running through my head. On top of that, my father, the man I look up to, the one who's the backbone of my family, is looking more frightened than I've ever seen him. And my mother has turned pale yellow. And at this point, she's sitting in the corner because she thought she was going to faint. This is all I had to think about when they wheeled me down to have a CT scan performed. When I returned to the ER doctor, he said he would stitch me up and that I would have to hurry to the ophthalmologist. The doctor said the specialist at the eye surgeon center would have to determine whether or not I would need surgery. The CT scan revealed that my inner orbital bone was completely shattered and my lower orbital bone was fractured. So now I had this pretty image of my eye getting taken out of my head so they could repair the bones that surround my eye. After the doctor was done stitching me up, he opened my eye one more time to see if my vision had gotten any better, and it had. I could see the outline of everyone in the room, but everything was yellow colored. My dad didn't tell me till the next day for fear that it would freak me out, but he said my pupil was completely smashed flat and that the green color of my eyes was yellow. That would have freaked me out too, so I'm glad he didn't tell me. I acted like a man when Gary and Scott were in the room, but as soon as they left, I lost it. I didn't want to be blind in one eye. We headed for the eye surgeons after that. I think that was the longest ride of my life, but it gave me time to get everything straightened out with the big man upstairs. When we arrived at the ophthalmologist's office, the doctor opened my eye. That's when I hit the lottery. My whole life I've wished I could hit the lottery. Well, this was it. I could see, and it was in color. It was blurry, but I knew that was something glasses could fix. So I was extremely happy. Then came the next miracle. The specialist had reviewed my CT scan and informed me that I would not have to have surgery. I was ecstatic. I was heavily drugged too, so the pain wasn't bothering me. The doctor explained to me that I had bleeding in the retina and that there is a high chance that it will re-bleed. And if that happens, I could be blind forever. So I wasn't completely out of the woods. She gave me my prescriptions for 5 different eye drops, antibiotics, and Percocet. She told me to stay in bed and rest. I wasn't about to compromise my eye anymore, so that's exactly what I did. After we left the eye doctor's office, my father called Gary and the ER doctor and notified them that I could see again. Gary was very pleased, and the ER doctor was amazed. The ER doctor told my dad that he didn't think I'd ever see again. And from there on, it was resting. Let me tell you, it was not fun. I had constant nightmares and even daymares, running different scenarios through my head of what could have happened. Burning eye drops every hour, not knowing if my eye was going to re-bleed, looking at my daughters and not being able to play with them, but in the same breath thanking God that I'm still here to be with them. You need to make sure something is done before someone gets hurt. The following changes were made in response to my accident. Face shields are now required and stored near the crusher. A new platform was constructed near the crusher door, and a window was added to the side so that the apron can be examined before opening the crusher door. A chain curtain now hangs in front of the crusher door opening. Heaters have been added below the crusher. This will help loosen the clay. 2 more air blasters have been added to the crusher. This will help clear the apron. And since our upgrades, our crusher has not clogged up once, and it used to clog up weekly. We added a quartz light to the top of the crusher. The light will now light the entire crusher, so only 1 man is needed to do the job. But there must be a second standing off to the side to make sure nothing happens. It's funny when you get hurt, people like to tell stories and compare battle wounds. Well, I was told one story by my cousin. It started off with his 2-year-old son. Him being a 2-year-old, he likes to pick up things and throw things. One day he picked up a pebble and threw it. This pebble happened to hit his mother in the eye. She can no longer see out of that eye. That's all it takes. A pebble accidentally thrown at you, a rock gets kicked up by a truck driving by, a piece of wood flings off the table saw. It's going to happen. The question is, will you be ready?